Hello there, and welcome once more to Emerald Art, our radio show. I'm Alan Cox, and the other half of the show is Dave Ashworth, and with a little bit of luck, Dave is with us right now. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Alan. How are you this evening?
It's all right. I was a little bit thrown because it's very good of Scott to stand in for Dave, and appreciate it very much. But he does the intro part totally different to Dave, and I was a little bit lost for a moment.
We never really know when the show's starting, do we?
No. Never mind, we're here.
Just dependent on a message coming over Skype to say get going.
That's right.
It's like a psychic thing. You guys should pick it up.
All right, yeah, that was it. Yeah, psychic thing. We'll have to remember that.
Yeah. No, seriously, Scott, we're not having a pop at you. It's just it's different. That's all. We appreciate it very much.
We're just sitting in the dark, aren't we?
That's right. Oh dear. Right. This evening's topic is what is the true meaning of fame? And a lot of people might think, well, that's a strange title for a spiritual psychic show. And when I sent you that message earlier on the week, Dave, you said, good one, but no idea what it means. And I said, neither have I.
Yeah.
Well, today, it came to me, the guide actually enlightened me. And it's nothing to do with being a film star, a pop idol, a brilliant actor, or even being a statesman. It's about who are the real famous people, who should be the real famous people. And today is a very significant day because today is the 70th anniversary of D-Day, where thousands of Allied forces lost their lives. British, American, Polish, the Dutch freedom fighters, as you can say, the Norwegian resistance, the French resistance. A lot of these people lost their lives so we can be literally talking now to each other, Dave.
Yeah.
And I think really those are the people who deserve the fame.
Yeah.
Just before we come on air, I was watching the news over here, and one of the veterans, it is actually his 89th birthday today.
Yeah.
And obviously it was his 19th birthday on the day that he landed on the beach at Normandy.
Yeah.
And his name's Peter Thompson. And surely he's somebody who deserves the fame.
Well, he's certainly lived a long time, hasn't he? When you think of the trauma that those people experienced on the beaches in Normandy, it must have been absolutely horrific to be landing amidst a hail of bullets, and they could only go in one direction, and that was towards the enemy and towards the bullets.
Yes. It's I know just before we come on the air, you said you didn't know a lot about what happened in the war. And I know a little bit, but it isn't something like you that I've actually studied.
Yeah.
But watching the news footage and seeing how kind of almost like humble that these men are, even to this day, and the fact that we do owe our freedom and our lives to them.
Yeah.
It's quite an incredible thing. It is quite emotional.
Yeah. And the Normandy landings was the biggest seaborne operation ever, so I believe.
Yes, that's right. It's the biggest ever in history. Nothing. And you see, the thing about the First World War and, of course, what we're talking about, the Second World War, is that it doesn't matter whether there are any other world wars again in the future, which God forbid there ever will be, but there'll never be one like the Second World War ever again. Because technology, in a sense, has taken over, so that kind of fighting wouldn't take place. But
that's right, yeah.
So it's a unique part of history.
Yeah.
Now, you say, well, what's this got to do with the Emerald Heart? Well, we all search for God. We all search for what we feel is what is our destiny.
Yeah.
So what did those soldiers, those brave soldiers, what was going through their minds at the time? And there's one very significant thing that was said by one of the survivors today, is that I shot a German and I looked down at him and he was just like me. And that could have been me lying there. Yeah. And there was brave German soldiers as well, and there's a lot of them who didn't want to fight, probably like a lot of British who didn't want to fight.
Yeah.
But in the Germans' point of view, if they didn't fight, the chances are they would have been shot by their own anyway. So, so perhaps the Emerald Heart, the guides there, are trying to get us to see that sometimes perhaps we do have to stand up for what we know is right, even if the way that we get that justice is probably not very spiritual to get that. I don't know how you see that.
Well, there's also the conscientious objectors to think about as well, Alan.
Yes.
You know, they knew they were going to be shot if they didn't fight.
Yeah.
So, and indeed shot by their own side as cowards. But, you know, where was the real courage? The real courage is in that standing up and saying, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to take the life of another human. Yeah. Not for anything. So these are difficult questions to answer, and the answers can only ever be found in the heart of each individual. And so, you know, in those days, it's impossible for us to imagine what it was like and the circumstances. And the problem with humanity is it has a very short memory. It's a little bit like, you know, where you might be ill with the flu or a bad cold or a bad cough or something and in great discomfort or even pain. But the minute you recover from that, you forget straight away how painful it was. And that kind of loss of memory is the same with things like war. You know, people say, well, it should never happen again, but the reality is it's happening everywhere, and humans are subjugating humans all over the place, all over the planet. So humanity has to come a very long way in order to awaken the consciousness within to a point where we're all working together for each other, for ourselves and each other in this kind of sharing situation. So, for example, if you start to look at the universal laws, it's within the universal laws that the whole of humanity at some point has to awaken and come together, because the meaning of enlightenment is we still maintain our individual lives and we still maintain the individual creativity and desires and passions that are within us, because those are unique to us. But enlightenment is the enlightenment of the consciousness, which is the expansion of the heart. So the heart expands in terms of consciousness, and the consciousness ultimately merges with the consciousness of everything else. So This is perhaps more understandable by people with psychic or spiritual gifts, because they have the gift to expand their consciousness into the lives of other people in order to help them. Now, if you see that expanding on a massive scale, I mean, in some of Jesus' teachings, he explains that when you begin to know the truth and really connect into the heart of your own being, there is nothing that can be hidden. You can see into the truth of everybody else. So if you imagined a situation where we could all see into the truth of everybody else, that would be a very, very different world, because you couldn't hide anything from anybody else. You couldn't hide the fact that you might have some dark thoughts and dark passions and dark desires for subjugating other people, because it would be seen by everybody else. Now, that's where humanity is going. Humanity is awakening. And whether you like it or not, this kind of inner expose is going to happen to you sooner or later, because that's the nature of the evolution of the universe. As the evolution of the universe continues at pace and the vibration in the universe changes, it opens up the consciousness of people's hearts to the point where, they first of all sense things when they're not quite right. You go into a deal about something, and you can sense whether the car salesman's a good guy or a bad guy, whether he's going to rip you off or he's actually doing you a decent deal.
Yeah.
And if you go with those feelings, you're going to come out all right. So that's kind of straying a little bit from the point in question, but where the guides are taking us with that is along the lines of the memory of war and how human words are very often quite empty, and the politicians will stand there and say, well, nothing like this should ever happen again. Yeah. But 5 minutes later, they're all standing in their egos and shaking the war swords and going into another conflict.
Well, it's like when you get the terrible things that happen, like, and this happened over in the UK as well as in America, where some deranged person goes on a killing spree in a school. And we've had it happen here at 2 or 3 schools, and I know obviously that it happens in America. And then, the politicians, the president of America, the prime minister of England, they'll say, just like what you've just said there, this should never, ever happen again. And it does, doesn't it? It does.
It does. It happens over and over and over again. The argument is quite often, well, it's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people. Well, what actually kills people is emotions.
Yes.
So if you think about that, for example, there was a little bit, I was travelling last night back from the airport, and it was late at night. It was about 11 o'clock. It was it was either the 10 or 11 o'clock news was on the radio, and we know we've got this conflict going on with Russia at the moment in the Crimea.
Yes.
And the French are selling them weapons at the moment, weapons of mass destruction, we might even call them.
I didn't know that, to be honest, Dave. No,
yeah,
I missed that one.
I didn't quite catch what it was all about, but I think it was something to do with some seaborne weapons or helicopters or something. I'm not sure which.
So who are they providing those to?
So the French are providing those to Russia.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Right.
Now, if you remember the Falklands War, yeah?
Yes.
The Argentines were firing Exocet missiles at us, yeah? And they were provided by the French.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's not until we get to this point where we stop this arms manufacturing, are we ever going to, step aside from this? Because what is the point of producing arms? It's never for defense. It's always going to be to use them.
Yes. Well, it goes along the lines that Britain are guilty of that as well, aren't they? We armed Saddam Hussein. We armed Gaddafi, and then basically those particular people turned it round and either use it on their own people or quite willing to use it on the people who supply them. So
yeah, that's right. So at some point, and the argument is always, it's jobs. Well, we need the jobs. We've got to provide jobs. Well, you know what? You've got heavy industry, manufacturing. You can manufacture railway engines or something. It doesn't have to be arms. You've got an engineering business. You can manufacture anything. It doesn't have to be arms. But while ever there is arms manufacturing, there's going to be people buying that stuff. And so at some point, you've got to stop it. You've just got to stop making the weapons.
So
make it hard for people to slaughter people.
Yeah. So you see, out of everything bad, there's an element of good that comes out of it. And by that, I mean that there are, not everyone, but there are some people realises how silly the whole exercise is, and it changes perhaps their lives, and it makes them a more stronger person, perhaps. And I suppose out of the conflict, there are perhaps a lot of people who then do find their way to, if you want to say, to the Emerald Ark. They find their way to God. So it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. There are always positives that can come out of a negativity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, regarding on the spiritual side, if you look at, I know we're talking about war, but if you look at the Second World War, it's well documented that Adolf Hitler thought that us, the UK, England, was ready for the taking, so he'd just leave us there and have a go at Russia. And that was the big mistake that he made, and he gave us enough time to stock up the arms and then ultimately, defeat him. Now, do you see that, I know we've all got free will, but do you see that because of the evil side that was obvious going on in Adolf Hitler's under his regime, that God intervened and created a situation that he would make the wrong decision, so humanity in Europe would survive? How do you see? Do you think he intervened there?
Well, it's a good question. Right. This is the way God works, if you like, and in a very simplistic way, this is the difference between good and evil. Every decision you ever make can go one way or the other. Yeah. You're either making it in humility or for the upliftment and empowerment of humanity, or you're making it in a selfish way, perhaps for your own ego gratification, or to gain something. And in the process of gaining something, you're often subjugating something else. So what God or the universe or whatever term you want to use for it does, people say, oh, there is no God because, we wouldn't have all this death and disaster and destruction, etc., etc. What people fail to realize is that they're all creators. They all possess the God consciousness, and it's awakened in different levels in each person. So we're all at a certain point on our path towards enlightenment. There are those of us that are carrying darker energies, and those of us that are carrying lighter energies. And the only way we get to the lighter energies is by seeking that path of light, or seeking that universal consciousness or God consciousness. But what the God consciousness does, it permanently illuminates the core of the being. It's the seed right at the very core of the heart. And depending on how awakened it is or how much light it's pouring into your life, determines the decisions you make. So in any decision-making situation, you can either choose light or dark or good or evil. It's the same thing. Evil is an emotive word. Good isn't so much of an emotive word, but it's the opposite of evil. So, as an example, the guy saying, you're walking down a road and you see there's an old lady struggling to cross the road, the traffic's heavy, etc., etc. She's had a couple of attempts to get into the road and cross and had to come back again because she's just not fast enough. And the traffic's not giving way to her. So at that point, you have the option of making a decision. Do I walk past that lady, or do I ask her, does she want some help? Now, that's the choice situation that everybody faces many, many times a day. So when it comes to that situation where Germany was choosing to either go for England or go for Russia, the choice was probably in man's hands. And they made that decision based on probably intelligence or lots of other different factors. But, you ask, does that universal consciousness make that decision? Well, my own personal feeling is that it doesn't, because ultimately the game is going to come out okay in the end. But in the process of getting from the start of the game to the end game, so that's kind of from the birth of a universe to the point where all beings are fully illuminated, enlightened, and conscious in that place, the whole process is a learning experience where we learn to make the right decisions, and those decisions are based on the feelings in your heart. So you will feel when it's the right decision, and you'll feel when it's the wrong decision. And, the only way we ever get farther up that ladder of enlightenment is by making a lot of wrong decisions. And when you make those wrong decisions, that's when you enter into the negative karma, etc., etc. So we're getting a little bit off the beaten track with that answer, but my own personal feeling on that is that the universe, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Yeah. It doesn't interfere directly, but it certainly has an influence on how much it illuminates each person's heart. But in the case of that particular decision we're talking about, whether you went for Russia or Britain first, everybody was really in fear of Hitler. All these old men were in fear. He controlled by fear.
Yes.
They were all scared to death of going against what he said. So he might have seen Russia as the big prize. Let's go and get the big prize first, because this little island off the coast of Europe, they should be easy.
Yeah.
When they see we've got the big prize and we've recruited the Russian army into the German army, then we wouldn't have a chance, might have been his thinking. So who knows the answer to that one? It's a big question, Alan.
Yeah. Well, you see, I know it's not a really, perhaps, an easy subject, war, but I suppose if you look back into the realms of history a long, long time ago, ever since really man's walked this earth, there has been some kind of conflict or war going on throughout the centuries. And it's nothing that's new to the 20th or the 21st century.
Yeah.
You go back into the realms of time, back to Genghis Khan. It seems something that this battle that goes on. Now, is it a case of that nothing's actually ever, in a sense, going to change? Perhaps more people will understand that war and fighting doesn't get you anywhere. So perhaps more and more people. So we live in hope that the world will change completely.
Yeah.
But do you see that there's always going to be an element of conflict, because there are people there who want to take control? They have the ego.
Well, the only reason they want to take control usually is because of fear. It's either greed, avarice, or fear which drives that desire to be more or own more than somebody else. So, and it also falls into this lack of tolerance. If you look at it at a tribal level, one tribe might not like the fact that the other tribe worship a green tree, where this tribe worship an orange tree, and so you get conflict because of the lack of tolerance. So it's the same from family situations right up through tribal situations and nation situations. They're all the same, and they're all based on lack of tolerance and the subjugation of the weaker.
It's strange you saying that, because only last week, I'm listening to the radio, I was in the car, I learned something about history that I didn't know, and it was about Napoleon Bonaparte.
Oh, yeah.
We drive on the left, and that comes down to the days of fighting as the Knights of the Round Table, and they would the knight would have his family on the left, because most people are right-handed, so so he could get his sword out to protect
and protect his family.
Yeah, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why most of Europe do drive on the right and not the left is because Napoleon was left-handed, and he ordered all his soldiers, even if they were right-handed, they must fight using their left hand. Now,
that's a disaster waiting to happen, isn't it?
Well, when you think about it, that really is pushing the ego, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
So no wonder he lost. But so that's the reason behind it. So I think that just points out about ego and perhaps how people try to control others. Believe it or not, the half hour is nearly gone, Dave. So, do you before we go to the break, would you like to tell everybody how they can reach the Emerald Heart?
Yep, you can find out all about Emerald Heart on our blog site, which is emeraldheartlight.com. Thanks, Alan.
It's okay. And if anybody's interested in myself, you can go to calmingthoughts.com. And just before the end of the show, got an announcement to make about the new magazine that Dave and I are both involved with. Right, okay, so we're going to take a break now, and I do believe that Scott has got a really nice song lined up for us, and it's Eve Cassidy, Fields of Gold. So we'll be back after this.
Wind moves among the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while among the fields of barley. In his arms she fell as her hair came down. barley. And you can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. I never made promises lightly, and there have been some that I've broken, but I swear in the days still left we'll walk in fields of gold. We'll walk in fields of gold. Still left, we'll walk in fields of gold. We'll walk in fields of gold. Many years have passed since those summer days among the fields of barley. See the children run as the sun goes down, as you lie in fields of gold. You remember me when the west wind moves among the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. When we walked in fields of gold. When we walked in fields of gold.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Emerald Art Radio. I'm Alan Cox, and with me is co-host Dave Ashworth. All right, Dave?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I wanted to put my headset back to front.
No problem.
I lost my microphone completely.
It's all right, no problem.
I was still trying to solve this webcam problem I got.
It's really strange, isn't it? You just
Very strange.
The little wheels turning around, and there's no picture.
It just doesn't exist anymore. The webcam is defunct.
Never mind, not to worry.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, you see, it is strange what us human beings, excuse me, will go through, and come out the other side. It's almost like we've got such an inner strength for survival, and that survival, if we use what problems we've been through to find a more positive way, it can lead us to what it is ultimately that we're looking for, and that's, I suppose, to be at one with ourselves and to be totally at one with the God consciousness.
Yeah, that's right. And it's the same thing, really. It's connecting into that God consciousness within you and being at one with that. You know, the spiritual teachings all teach us about this, the duality within us. You know, we have the ego self and we have the real self. And the process of enlightenment is dissolving the ego self and just becoming the real self. So it's getting rid of that duality, so that we're just in that state of unity. So we go from a place of separation into unity, and that is being totally in sync. It is the process of becoming God. So we have a very strange perception of what God is, essentially because we've been programmed by so many images for so many hundreds or thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to erase that image of what God is, if you like, in most people's minds. But, you know, you just have to set about that and just re-envision the process of what God is. And God is just this stream of consciousness. That's all it is. And it's there for any of us to tap into at any point in time.
Actually, on about fame and motion movies, there's one very famous one that people just saw it as, I suppose, entertainment or a little girl's dream. But this particular film, if you look into it, gave lots of important messages. And the film I'm talking about is The Wizard of Oz, which they
of course, yeah.
Which they put on every Christmas.
Yeah, that's right.
And in the end, when they actually finally get to the wizard, it's just an ordinary man behind a curtain.
That's right, yeah.
With a megaphone.
The illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are lessons there, you know, about the Tin Man, no heart, you know, the straw, what was it, the lion with no courage, and
no courage. That's right, yeah.
And it got all of humanity in there, even with the Wicked Witch.
That's right.
It's
dark side.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And my ignorance, although I've watched the film many times, I don't know who actually made it, but the creator, the person, was given, as well as entertaining people, was given a very deep message there about us human beings.
That's right, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And the guy behind the curtain was God.
Yeah. And if you actually think about it, you know, what is the true meaning of fame? Well, you know, the film became famous and is famous worldwide. But I would think most people miss what the message really was.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, yeah. It's you have to sit with things and watch them several times so that they start to open up, so that the hidden messages in things open you up at a deeper level. You know, it's like spiritual teachings are always taught in metaphor. The truth in them is always hidden.
Yeah.
And so I'll just give you an example. I've just picked up a book here which I've opened. Jesus Untouched by the Church by Hugh McGregor Ross. It's basically a treatise on the I can't remember what they're called. And you know, I read this book regularly. But some of the teachings that were found in the desert, the Nag Hammadi library, and it's just open on this page. And Jesus said, "I will overturn this house, and no one will be able to build it again." And essentially, he's speaking about the heart and turning the darkness over. So pouring the light into a person's heart so that the light basically dissolves the darkness out. And once the darkness is gone, the person is full of light, and therefore nobody will be able to build that house of darkness again. So this is just the same as seeing the messages. You know, there are some teachings I've come across and still do come across. You know, I'll read deep teachings, and I think I cannot get the message in that. But what happens is the more you read the teaching, the more the universe knows you're seeking the light and the answers. And so that brings us to that saying that never cease from seeking. Or knock and it will be opened unto you, and seek and you shall find. So if you keep reading the teachings that you don't understand, what they actually do a little bit at a time is raise the vibration, and eventually you see the message that's hidden in the words. And sometimes I've read a teaching for years and years and years, and then suddenly one day you'll pick it up and you suddenly see it. It's like it's illuminated, and you think, well, and the moment you've seen it, that's it. It's like you've moved on. You know your vibration has shifted, and the thing is, it never goes back again. It remains open at that level. So, you know, there's lots of messages out there, whether it's in the Wizard of Oz, where somebody has taken the trouble to put wonderful messages to mankind into a movie, which is a great way of doing it when you think about it. I mean, that's I don't know who wrote that actually, but
no, I don't.
That's fame for you, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Somebody wrote that, and that person that should be famous for having brought this beautiful spiritual lesson about humanity in a film that's still shown every year on televisions throughout the world.
That's right, and that actually shows that it goes beyond a film for entertainment as much as it does entertain.
That's right, yeah.
And probably a lot of people who watch it time and time again, not everybody will know exactly why they're watching it again. That's
right, yeah.
It's just something that's a need sometimes with some people, and it's about watching it, and then eventually, as you say, one day, one of the times of watching it, the message to that person personally will click what it's about.
Yeah. Well, it was written by a guy called Lyman Frank Baum, or Baum.
Right. Okay.
But you never heard of him, have
you? No, I haven't. Have you?
Well, not till I just Googled it.
Right, okay.
He was born May the 15th, 1856, and he died in 1919. So a long time before the film was made. Yeah.
So he wrote the story.
Yeah, he wrote The Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Yeah, incredible.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It really is. And
so people sew these things into the fabric of our reality, but sometimes it takes a long time for humanity to be ready for the message. You know, I've seen that in my own books, you know, where I look at them and I just think, and you know, people who are close to me say, Dave, this is just too far ahead of its time. People aren't ready for it.
Yeah.
And it does cause a dilemma because, you know, I've got 3 or 4 more books that I've had in my head for years now. And I think, well, is there any point writing them? Because people aren't ready for them. You know, that's my life that's ticking away while I'm writing those books when I could be doing something that I'm enjoying.
But the thing is, Dave, excuse me, just like you've given the example of The Wizard of Oz, who's saying that perhaps in another 150 years or whatever, your books could be out there, and it's actually making a difference to different people.
Yeah. So, well, I have no doubt about that at all. But I go full circle with it now and again. You know, when I'm on top of the workload and you've got a bit of time to think creatively, then it comes back to me, and I think, yeah, I need to get down to this book writing business and, get this stuff out of the heart and onto the page. And in fact, just this last few weeks, I've been changing a lot of things to buy myself some of that time. And in fact, you know what it's like on the spiritual path, Alan. We have to change all the time.
Yes.
And I've put into operation massive changes in the last few weeks, where I've kind of handed the Emerald Heart over to Tim Dyson, Tim's been my kind of right hand man, helping me take the light out into the world for a number of years, and he's one of the elders of the Emerald Heart. And I just came down one morning and sent Tim an email and told him what needed to happen, and he sent one back, and you know when it's the universe speaking to you, because it bursts the heart open of the other person, and he sent one back, and it had the same effect on my heart. And so we spoke on the phone and said, well, this is what we need to do now, this is the next step. And that's partly to buy me that time to get back into being a creator, because that's what I am. I'm a creator. And if I get bogged down in the everyday running of things, I'm not creating. And so, God's going to kick me up the backside if I'm not creative, because that's what I came here to do.
Yeah, because there's a difference between creating and managing.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. A huge difference, yeah.
And it's funny on about, books. As you know, that I've tried for years and years to write a book. And now, every morning now, I'm up early, about 6, half 6, and I'm writing my book. And I sit there in front of the computer, and I think, okay, what's today going to be about? I haven't got a clue. And then suddenly my fingers start moving on the keyboard, and it starts to flow. So I know that this time it's meant to be. And I think it's all in the right time. And I probably always realised that. And you have to be in the correct space to know that it's now the time to move forward.
Yeah, that's right. And it's hard. It's hard sometimes to get yourself into that space. I find I do enjoy writing. I write tons of stuff every day. Yeah. I've just written 2 teachings tonight for the students. Several pages, probably about 7 pages of teachings, and so I'm writing all the time on a daily basis. And some of this stuff might well go into books at some point, but a lot of it is just that teaching in the moment where students are struggling with something.
Yeah,
and it's just giving them those answers that they're seeking, and saying, well, look, this is what you've not seen. This is where you've slipped off your path, and it's all to do with this particular thing here.
Well, I think this is probably a good time because we're both involved with a brand new online digital magazine, and talking about fame, perhaps it'll put our names up in lights. Who knows, Dave? But
never know.
Yeah, you never know. But if anybody's interested, and please have a look at it, because I'm biased, because I'm one of the, shall we say, creators of the site. But if you go to www.paranormalgalaxy.com, and on the front page you'll see a link to the brand new digital magazine, which is free at the moment. It was launched on the 1st of June, just last Sunday. And there's an article in there from myself. There's one there by Dave Ashworth, who's talking along here as well. There's Andy Porter, who's been on my show many times. There's Jesse Bravo, who's been on my show. There's lots of really good, interesting people on there who've written articles. Regular listeners to Paramania Radio will probably remember Sue Thompson, the Reverend Sue Thompson, as she is now. And there's a letter from her and one of her beautiful poems on there. So, and also next Thursday, I'm giving over my second hour of my Understanding Spirit time. So from 6, let's get this right. Eastern time is going to be 5 till 6. There's a new show, Paranormal Galaxy Radio, and that'll be myself, Jack Heath and Sharon Wolaski, and we'll be talking about all things paranormal and having lots of different guests on. So there's a lot going on there, Dave.
Sounds fascinating, Alan.
And at some point, obviously, we'll ask you to come on as well. I feel that it's funny. You've been saying for such a long time you wanted to find a way of getting the information out, the knowledge out about the Emerald Heart.
Yeah.
And we start off with you being a guest on my show, Understanding Spirit, and then we come to do the Emerald Heart together.
Yeah.
And now it's gone to paranormal galaxy.com, and there's going to be another radio show.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, there can be fame in the sense that lots and lots of people know about you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the fame in the sense that you are a star.
A star, famous person.
Yeah. It's more to do with what it is you're actually portraying, giving out.
It's better to have a bit of fame than infamy.
Oh, definitely. Oh, dear, yes.
Well, it has been a fascinating time, the way things are opening up, and you've got amazing connections in the USA, Alan, that just never seem to stop opening up. And,
I know.
And I've had some things opening up there just recently, actually, that I don't think I've had time to tell you about properly, but we'll talk about that off the air.
Yeah.
But the guidance has been coming through strong in the way I need to change my whole life now. The thing with life is it's never long enough, is it?
No, it's true.
It's such a busy thing, and we're achieving so much all the time. But at the same time, when you're on the spiritual path, things move so fast all the time that you struggle to keep up with the changes sometimes. And I realised this year, it's been coming the last 2 years, but I have to now make some absolutely massive changes. And it's kind of like leaving the Emerald Heart behind in a way, but yet it isn't. It's separating myself from the Emerald Heart and its consciousness at the moment, so that the universe can pour more light into me to bring the Emerald Heart into the world in a different way. So it's a little bit like building a company. You build one department, and then you leave that to the people who are running it, and you build a new department. And that's where you need your creators in business. Well, it's the same kind of thing here. The universe is pouring the Emerald Heart into this world, and it's saying, okay, well, we've established this department, this. We've got tons of departments that are established, and now we have to, as I said to you when we spoke before this radio program, the Emerald Heart Radio started, I came round to your house one day and I'd said, Alan, I keep getting this word broadcast.
Yes.
And the vision of somebody broadcasting seeds on a field.
Yes.
And it's like sowing the seeds. And so this is just moving again to another level of sowing the seeds. So we've got the radio. The next thing's got to be Emerald Heart TV.
That's right.
And that's why I've got no webcam tonight, because I was messing around with Movie Maker on the computer, and now it's got the webcam out. So we've gone from planning Emerald Heart TV to no TV at all.
Great. Believe it or not, we're almost out of time again. Dave.
Mad.
I know. It goes so quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So, once again, if anybody would like to know more about the Emerald Heart, how can they find that out, Dave?
They can find that out on a number of websites, but the blog is a good place to start, which is emeraldheartlight.com. They can also find out a bit about me on davidashworth.com, and we've got emerald-heart.com, which is the main website.
And regarding myself, you can go to calmingthoughts.com, and please check out paranormalgalaxy.com and have a look at the new online digital magazine, where you'll find an article by Dave Ashworth and one there by yours truly. So I think we're virtually out of time. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we go, Dave?
I would just like to send my love to everybody who listens to the radio show, Alan, because sometimes we're chattering away here, and we're talking to each other and hoping people are listening, and we know we have a lot of regular listeners, and I think it's just nice to remember them once in a while. So I'd like to send all our love from me and you to all our listeners.
Yeah, I that's a lovely thought. Yeah, I agree there. And sometimes we don't realise how it might affect people what is said.
Yeah,
and it does. I mean, even I do Jack Keith's show. Well, I do about 15-minute segment every Thursday morning.
Yeah.
And people, it's 6:20 in the morning over there, and it's their travel show. And yesterday I get an email of somebody who's listens to that segment every morning, and they send me an email. Can I help them? And you just never know, do you?
No.
It's it's important, really. You just sit there in your own home, you're talking, it's going out all over the world, and you just don't know exactly what effect it can have on people.
That's right.
Yeah,
well, hopefully it's having a good effect.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the fact is, it doesn't always. People don't always have to agree with what we're saying. The whole idea, I think, of a radio show like this is to get people thinking and having their own thoughts.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with disagreeing at all.
No. We've all got to find our own way.
Yeah.
When we all get to the end of the path, we'll all see the same truth.
That's right.
It's just a question of getting there.
Right. Well. With that, over to you. And
thanks very much, everybody, for listening again. And it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.
With the chorus of song of the world all around, now it blends in the tune, joining me in the song, we shall never be.